Warning, the following contains scenes that some may find too awesome. Please do not attempt this at home.
Remember in the early 2010s, Disney XD was in its prime. Lab Rats was kicking butt, kicking it was well, kicking it, and then out of nowhere, a wild puppet appeared. That's right, folks, Crash and Bernstein, the show that dared to ask, what if your loudest, most chaotic sibling came to life? When we're kids, we've always wished our toys would come alive. And with Crash, well, let's say he's not your average Buzz Lightyear. He's what happens when your wildest imagination goes completely off the rails. It's chaotic, beautiful, hilarious chaos. Today on Sentimental Rewind, we're jumping headfirst into the craziest puppet-filled tornado Disney XD ever brought to life. Welcome to Sentimental Rewind, the channel where we look back on shows you totally forgot existed but shouldn't have. Today we're diving into Crash and Bernstein, the Disney XD show that gave us wild slapstick puppetry and more sibling drama than an episode of Brady Bunch. Alright, let's talk about Crash and Bernstein, the most chaotic and downright wild ride Disney ever sent our way. It dropped in 2012 and ran just under 40 episodes. It felt like someone took all our chaotic childhood energy, bottled it up, and then let it explode in a 20-minute burst of mayhem, which makes total sense. This show wasn't your typical Disney experience. It was a roller coaster of slapstick, chaos, and unpredictable humor that probably left parents wondering, what did I just let my kids watch? And yet, that's why it's so good. You never quite know what's going to happen next. Is Crash going to pick a fight with a bully, destroy Wyatt's house, maybe launch himself into space for no reason? Yeah, probably all the above. Think about it. While in America, they got Crash and Bernstein, here in South Africa, all we got was Chester missing.
Here we are back and...
But hey, he's still a puppet, right? And so, from the depths of a Build-A-Bestie shop comes Crash, a purple, sarcastic, ninja sword-wielding puppet straight out of every kid's chaotic imagination. This wasn't some Pinocchio moment where a wooden puppet learns to be good. No, no, no. Crash hit the ground running, literally, and his mission, wreaking havoc. Or as he would say, let's crash this party. Crash is like the wild side of Wyatt's own personality coming to life, literally. The whole show revolves around their oddball sibling dynamic, with Wyatt trying to survive Crash's antics while learning a few lessons along the way. And let me tell you, Crash just doesn't live, he dominates. But there's a twist. The show doesn't quite explain how or why this happens. Nope. Does anyone ask? Also no. Crash simply exists. Wyatt's life is turned upside down the minute this puppet walks, or rather crashes into his world. Now, let me take you back to my childhood. Picture this. It's an early Saturday morning. I'm already up, racing through the house to grab the remote before anyone else, just to be part of the wild ride that Crash and Bernstein always promised. It was like getting a front row seat to a demolition derby, where the main character was the kid inside all of us, who just wanted to smash things. Crash is the reason to watch the show. Let's be real, he's what brings the entire show to life, pun intended. Played by Tim Lachas, a master puppeteer. The credits from Sesame Street and The Muppets. Crash is like the unfiltered dream of every child, embodying all the wild impulses we're taught to suppress. He's wild, reckless, and completely unpredictable. Need an example? In one episode, Crash literally takes down the school bully, sending shockwaves of fear through Wyatt's school. In another, he turns Wyatt's home into his personal wrecking ground, without blinking an eye. And rewatching this show as an adult, I'm not gonna lie, it makes me feel like heading straight to a rage room and just smashing things like Crash. Anyone else getting the itch to break some furniture right now? Before we dive headfirst, let's talk about what really sets Crash and Bernstein apart. Puppetry.
I don't think anybody would believe this story.
Puppets have always had a special place in TV history. From the Muppets to Sesame Street to, whatever happened to Whimsy's house? But Disney XD brought its own twist by using Crash as a tool for pure, unadulterated chaos. And let's be real, Crash isn't exactly your polished, refined puppet. He's more like your slightly messy, out of control uncle at Thanksgiving dinner. Crash was voiced and puppeteered by Tim LaHasse, who brought the no-rules energy to the character. While other networks were busy using puppets to teach kids about sharing and the alphabet, Disney XD was like, nah, let's see what happens when you let a puppet run wild with a tween boy and no adult supervision. Spoiler alert, nothing good, but it's hilarious.
It's so nice to meet you. You have a lot of free time, don't you?
The show's setting plays a huge role in the madness too. Most of the chaos unfolds in Wyatt's apartment, a place that, thanks to Crash, ends up looking more like a war zone by the end of every episode. And then there's Wyatt's school, where, let's be honest, Crash makes no attempt to fit in. Instead, he spreads his unique brand of anarchy. And we can't forget their favorite hangout spot, the arcade. It's basically Crash's playground, where he smashes high scores, causes even more destruction, and unleashes mayhem in a place that represents every kid's dream of freedom and rebellion. This setting adds a lot to the show's vibe. Now, wait! The show wasn't just about a puppet causing mayhem. It had lessons too. Wyatt actually learned a lot from having Crash as a brother, and one of the biggest lessons was that sometimes the people or puppets who drive you the craziest end up teaching you the most about yourself. Crash might have been the wild card, but he showed Wyatt the importance of embracing the spontaneity. Wyatt was usually a more reserved and responsible kid who learned to let loose, break some rules, and have fun. That's a lesson many of us can take to heart, that sometimes you need a little chaos to break out of your comfort zone. But Crash wasn't just about chaos. He taught Wyatt about loyalty, and even when Crash's actions got them both in trouble, he always had Wyatt's back. That's real brotherhood, being there for each other, even when you are the cause of the mess in the first place. And of course, through Crash's presence, the most important lesson of all, Wyatt learned to appreciate his sisters even more, and sometimes the people you don't expect to teach you the most important lessons in life, about family, responsibility, and most of all, patience, sometimes actually do. Now, the question we've all been asking ourselves, so what did the audience react to this mix of live action and puppetry? Well, it was mixed. Some people loved the fresh take on the sibling relationship, with Crash serving as the ultimate annoying little brother, a role that usually went to the human actors. But hey, why not switch things up? Others thought the show was a little too chaotic. You know, like someone handed a sugar-high 8-year-old kid a video camera and said, "Go nuts." Critics were split, some appreciating the unique concept, while others felt like Crash was just a bit too much. But here's one thing, Crash and Bernstein wasn't trying to be your typical sitcom. It was slapstick, it was unpredictable, and honestly, sometimes it felt like the writers just wanted to see how far they could push the crazy puppet angle. Back to puppets. It's a puppet show after all. So, how does Crash and Bernstein stack up against other puppet classics? Well, Whimsy's house was for a younger crowd, using puppets to spark imagination. The Muppets mastered the art of blending chaos with heart. And Sesame Street used puppets to teach life lessons. And then there was Crash and Bernstein, which pretty much threw all that out the window and said, now let's see what happens when you turn chaos into a brother. Now, if the episodes weren't chaotic enough, the games born from the show took it to another level. Cluck and Chuck, Smash and Crash Burnerball were absolutely wild. Who knew that Crash's disruptive nature could spill over into video games? These weren't just your average everyday video game. They captured the pure adrenaline of Crash's universe, where the main objective were to smash, crash, and laugh your way to victory. Even the reviews were in line with the show's essence, a lot of fun and a little ridiculous, but oddly addicting. The brain behind Crash and Bernstein is Eric Friedman, a writer, producer who's no stranger to Disney content, with credits that include Aston and Ally, the Band. Friedman wanted to create something fresh for Disney XD's young male audience. The idea of Crash and Bernstein came from a simple yet unique concept. What if a boy could bring his imaginary sibling to life? The show was meant to blend wild humor with heart, giving younger viewers a look at family dynamics through a puppet's unpredictable lens. But of course, being Disney XD, they needed to turn the volume up to 11. Friedman tapped into the love of slapstick comedy, pulling inspiration from classic shows like The Muppets and Sesame Street. But with Crash, he wanted to bring a raw, unfiltered edge to the genre. We're finally here. I'm famished. Now let's talk about the real meat of the show, the characters and their dynamics. Wyatt's growth throughout the series is one of the most charming aspects. With three sisters, Amanda, Cleo, and Jasmine, Wyatt starts off feeling completely out of place, surrounded by girliness at every turn, but Crash isn't just there to cause chaos. He's there to teach Wyatt that sometimes the things that annoy you or seem out of place actually help you to grow. Amanda is your typical blonde older sister. She's bossy, driven, and she's always got the perfect hair, which Crash loves to mess with. Wyatt's mom, Mel, is the soft, nurturing presence in the family, always ready to keep the family grounded even when Crash is destroying everything in sight. If Crash is the hurricane, she is the calm before and after the storm. She's there to offer Wyatt comfort when the craziness hits its peak, reminding us that sometimes moms are unsung heroes of the household. And Cleo, Wyatt's younger sister, is the entrepreneurial and manipulative sister. Think of her as a miniature mogul in the making and always plotting some new scheme.
You got it, sucker! I mean, customer!
And then let's not forget about little Jasmine, the youngest. She brings a dash of innocence to the family. She's the sweet and oblivious little sister who doesn't really fully understand the chaos that's happening around her, but she loves her family just the same. Then of course, we've got Wyatt's best friend, Presto, who adds even more comedic relief. Presto, the weird magician kid who seems out of place but somewhat fits into the offbeat group. And don't even get me started on the midget landlord, Mr. Poodlos, whose Crash constantly butts heads with. He's grumpy, no nonsense, and somewhat always stuck cleaning up Crash's mess.
Don't you guys understand? Wrestling doesn't just destroy walls, it can destroy a man's very soul.
Mr. Poodlos is like the unofficial adult in the show, trying and failing to rein in the madness. His interactions with Crash give us those laugh out loud moments and also a subtle lesson in patience and tolerance. We can't talk about Crash and Bernstein without spotlighting Crash's iconic moments. This puppet wasn't here to play nice. He was here to make a statement, and nothing says statement like smashing through a door, yelling. Crash's iconic lines like,
Look what I found in your purse this morning. Oh, I'll take a Western omelet, extra biscuits, a side of Canadian bacon, and what's your selection of smelly cheeses?
This captures his spontaneity, absurd personality, his character that's both the hero and the anti-hero of the show, delivering chaos wherever he goes, while still managing to help Wyatt grow as a person. This combination makes him unforgettable. Crash, though, is the heart of the show, and part of what makes him so memorable is his larger-than-life personality. I mean, who can forget "I'm a puppet, not a quitter," or "Don't worry, I've got this," Crash style. Crash is that chaotic friend who says whatever is on his mind, does whatever he wants, and drags you along for the ride, whether you're ready or not. And somehow, despite all the chaos, he manages to make Wyatt's life better, teaching him how to stand up for himself, face challenges, and embrace the craziness around him. Come on, Wyatt, life is like a cannonball. Either you launch or you get launched. It's easy to get lost in all the slapstick humor, but the show also has its lessons. Wyatt, with Crash by his side, learns about responsibility, friendship, and how to deal with chaos that life throws at you, often literally. Thanks to Crash, each episode is another step in Wyatt's growth from a kid overwhelmed by his family and the world to someone who starts to find his own identity. Crash might be destructive, but he's also a force for good in Wyatt's life. One of the great things about Crash and Bernstein was every episode had a small life lesson wrapped in the madness. In the episode Crash Leaves Home, Crash, feeling unappreciated, leaves Wyatt's home to live with a midget landlord, Mr. Poodlos. Wyatt quickly learns the hard way how much Crash actually means to him, realizing that while Crash may drive him crazy, he's still family. It's a lesson in gratitude and acceptance. Or take the episode Clothes Call, where Wyatt wants to be more popular, so he buys new clothes to fit in school. Crash ruins them, but Wyatt eventually learns that true friendship isn't about appearances. This is a classic sitcom lesson of be yourself. It's reinforced through Crash's wild puppet logic. Wyatt learns to stand on his own 2 feet, not because of what he wears, but because of who he is. In the end, Crash and Bernstein was more than just slapstick puppet comedy. It was about growth, Wyatt's growth. Crash may have been the loud, disruptive force that Wyatt never asked for, but through their relationship, Wyatt learns valuable lessons about loyalty, acceptance, and the importance of family. Each misadventure with Crash, whether it's blowing up toilets or getting stuck in crazy schemes, helps Wyatt become more confident, self-assured, a better brother. Unfortunately, all good, or in this case, insane things must come to an end. After just 2 seasons, Crash and Bernstein got axed. Disney never really explained why, but it's probably had something to do with the network shifting towards superhero shows and more convenient sitcoms like Lab Rats and Kicking It. Crash and Bernstein didn't last long, under 40 episodes, but it left a weird, unforgettable mark in Disney XD's lineup. While it might not have been a massive hit like Zeke and Luther or Lab Rats, it developed this cult following. I was surprised when I found out how much fan art and love there's still for Crash out there. This show's wacky energy resonated a lot with kids who felt like life was just a little too structured. Crash was the part of us that wanted to go wild and to break things, make a mess and not worry about the consequences. Crash and Bernstein is the kind of show that if you grew up watching, you definitely haven't forgotten, but mostly because Crash probably gave you nightmares. Here's one thing about Crash and Bernstein. It's easy to dismiss as a failed attempt at being edgy and cool. But beneath the initial reaction is a show that actually is pretty genius in its absurdity. The slapstick humor, the wild antics, and unexplainable living puppet make it something truly unique among Disney XD's oddball lineup. And yeah, sure, it might not be as polished as some other Disney shows, but what makes it stand out in a world of perfectly curated family sitcoms, Crash and Bernstein is the breath of chaotic, reckless, fresh air. And here's a fun bit of lost media for you. In 2014, Disney actually greenlit a spin-off called Commando Crash, where Crash was going to be sent to military school. As if he wouldn't completely destroy the place. The pilot was filmed, but Disney decided to shelve it. Maybe they realized that the world wasn't ready for Crash to be unleashed on even a bigger scale. What can we learn from Wyatt and Crash? Sometimes the things that challenge us the most, whether it's a puppet brother or a real sibling, help us grow into the people we're meant to be. Crash and Bernstein may have been chaotic, but it reminded us of the importance of family. Even when family is, well, a little crazy, that's the beauty of the show. It taught lessons through laughs just the way we like it here at Sentimental Rewind. And at the end of the day, Crash and Bernstein may not have been your traditional family sitcom, but it was memorable. It took a risk blending puppetry with live action in a way that was messy, unpredictable, and kind of genius. Sure, Crash was an absolute train wreck of a character, but that's what made him him. And the show, so much fun. And Wyatt, well, he learned that sometimes the chaos you think is messing up your life might just be teaching you how to live it. So if you got Disney Plus, go give Crash and Bernstein a watch. It's got the right amount of unhinged slapstick fun to make you laugh, shake your head, and maybe even want to hit up a rage room afterwards. Because sometimes we all need a little Crash in our lives. So till next time, let's keep rewinding.